Hey Dungeon Masters, today we are going to be walking through the Monster Generator on WorldSmith. If you're unfamiliar with WorldSmith, it is a DM toolkit. It's excellent for new DMs or experienced DMs who just want to spice up their game and add in some amazing balanced homebrew content, which you're not going to find in any of the official D&D publications. So you can see here the full list of generators that WorldSmith has. They're constantly launching new ones and testing them. Today we are going to use the Monster Generator, which is one of the most tried and true generators on WorldSmith. I use it all the time in prepping my sessions. To be honest, I was pretty surprised at how much I've enjoyed this. I'm kind of an old school Dungeons and Dragons player. I didn't really think this was a tool I would use that often, but I've found it's very, very helpful. I use the Monster Generator probably for 50 to 75% of the sessions that I run, and I find it's very, very helpful for building a variety of unique or new types of monsters, which I could not find in the monster manual. So there's a lot of things to look at here. This Eldritch Behemoth is just basically the standard thing that just pops up the template. If you look over here on the left, that's where things are really going to matter. So you can toggle this up and down. So this is if you, for some reason, would like to have a super fast creation. Let's say you are creating something on the fly, which you totally can do. You're in the middle of a session, you get railroaded by your players, they go into a new encounter, you don't have a monster ready to go. You could select the ultra fast model. There is also smart and ultra smart models, which basically is just using more computing power to put this together. For now, we're just going to use the balanced model, which is going to be, I think, the best fit for what we want to put together here. It's going to be nice and balanced, have everything in it that we want to, very accurate to the game, and we don't need to be creating something super fast. So we're going to start with a challenge rating 3 creation. Let's say that my party is traveling through a haunted forest, through like a cursed forest, and I would like them to fight kind of like a mini boss or just kind of like a strong monster to get the encounter started, but not something that is going to be the big boss at the end of the session. So I'm thinking in my mind that it would be very cool if it was a spider, like a giant spider creature that has some unexpected power, some unexpected abilities. It might be slightly magical, something that they are not going to know exactly how it's going to work. The monster manual has a stat block for a giant spider and for small spiders and for things like driders, but it doesn't have a great stat block for like kind of like a mini boss giant spider, which I think would be very fun to fight in the forest. So let's go here into type. Under type, you can see all different types of things. I think I'm going to say that the type of creation that this is, obviously you're on my iPad now, so you're kind of getting that, is going to be Fey. I want this to be like a dark elf forest. So Fey, I think, is a good match. For the size, let's go ahead and say large. I want it to be a little bit larger than a medium creature. Alignment, this is probably a chaotic evil creature. Its origin, I'm going to say natural, and then it gives me some drop downs here. And let's go ahead and say forest. And then for the last option, legendary actions. One of my favorite things about the Monster Generator on WorldSmith is that you can give legendary actions to creatures of any challenge rating, which I find extremely helpful. Legendary actions in the standard monster manual are generally just reserved for high-level monsters, but this, I think, can make combat kind of boring and repetitive for your lower-level combats, where basically each monster is only getting one action in the initiative order, and then all of the players get to go. So I love to use WorldSmith to create CR5 or lower monsters that still have legendary actions. We're going to go ahead and give it 2 so that it really has an active role in the combat rather than just doing its one action and waiting for the players to react. It's going to be able to interject things throughout, which are going to throw them off a little bit, scare them, and make the whole combat a lot more engaging. That was probably the most important part of the process, which is putting in your custom note. What's awesome about WorldSmith is it's not going to force you into a box of like, it's not like an AI dungeon master or something that's going to basically be writing your session for you. Really, it's a way to take your ideas and then turn those ideas into balanced stat sheets, which I appreciate because that can be very time consuming and also is something when it gets into deciding every single factor of the ability scores and hit points where a lot of times I'm not sure what would be best to make something balanced. So for the custom note, I'm basically just going to type in more or less what we already talked about. So a giant enchanted spider that protects the forest, has some magical powers and unexpected abilities. Let's go ahead and stick with that. I'm going to head and press generate. Obviously, the speed of the generation kind of depends on this sliding bar up at the top. For the balanced model, I would say for the most part, it's going to take between like 15 to 30 seconds. It is very fast, certainly fast enough to be able to create something on the fly while you're running. And obviously just, there we go, it's already finished, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and read this. The Verdant Web Spinner, Large Fey Chaotic Evil. It's got a great description, which can be very fun to read for your players. It has a lore. Let's get into the juicy stuff. We've got 85 hit points. That seems good. An AC of 14, a 30-foot move speed, and climb speed. Here's all of its ability scores. It has its skills, languages, damage, resistance, and immunities, which I love. Some fun senses, including Tremor Sense, which I think is very fun. Okay, let's check out its features. Fey Ancestry. The Web Spinner has advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put it to sleep. Magic Resistance. The Web Spinner has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. I love that ability for a kind of mini-boss monster. And innate spellcasting. The Web Spinner's innate spellcasting ability is Charisma. It can cast the following spells requiring no material components at will. Druidcraft once a day each, Entangle, and Fairy Fire. Very fun, I think, for a spider antagonist to have a couple spells. And here's its actions. A multi-attack. It makes 2 attacks, one with its bite and one with its web, if available. The bite is a pretty standard attack, plus 5 to hit, 1d8 plus 3 piercing damage, plus 2d6 poison damage. I like that it really packs a punch. They must succeed on a DC 13 con saving throw or be poisoned and frightened for 1 minute. But then we've got the web, which is a recharge ability. Again, I think most CR3 creatures in the Monster Manual don't have strong recharge abilities, and this is something that I really, really love using WorldSmith for. Ranged weapon attack, plus 5 to hit. One creature, the target is restrained by webbing. As an action, the restrained target can make a DC 13 strength check. The webs flake away after 1 minute. And here's its legendary actions. It makes a wisdom perception check, which is standard, but very helpful, especially when you're fighting against people who are like min-maxing a rogue build. And then the web shot, which costs 2. The web center uses web attack against one creature within 30 feet. Recharge not required. Super fun. I love this. This is going to be a nice low-level monster. It's going to give them a nice little challenge, 85 hit points, an okay armor class, and it's got magic resistance, which is very fun. So I think it's going to require a little bit of work. It can incapacitate a couple of the players and force them to get a little bit creative. It then has some fun loot. The Face Silk Pouch, a small pouch of living webbing. When used, grants the effect of the web spell once. Nice little item. And the Spider Venom Vial, a corked vial containing enough venom for 1 dose of a DC 13 con poison and 1d6 poison damage. This is a great little stat sheet. Quite happy with this. One of my favorite things about WorldSmith is that all of this is editable. For example, the Verdant Web Spinner, that doesn't really seem like a great title to me. It kind of reeks a little bit of AI. And so I'm definitely going to go in and change the title to that. And maybe we'll call this the Cursed Behemoth. That's a little bit more kind of like my style, is to write something that has like a little bit of kind of a legendary or kind of more classic fantasy feel to it. If I wanted to, I could go in and edit all of these things. I can, of course, edit all of its stats as well. For example, maybe I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you know what? We got a lot of like fighters in the party and other things that actually give a lot of pluses to this. I'm just going to go ahead and bump its armor class to 16, so it's a little bit more challenging. Any of these things I can go in and tweak. Over here, I can save it. And when you save it, you get to choose where you save it to. So you have just kind of your general saved items where you can sort things, but then you can actually go in here to your separate campaigns. We're going to go ahead and save this to the Heroes of Turtle's Head, which is that current campaign, and we'll save it. In addition, I can download it to be a PDF, PNG, whatever format you'd like. I can change the setup of it, is what this button does over here. I can choose to enhance it, which is essentially just to add in an additional element. So maybe after seeing this creation, I want to say to myself, oh, you know what would actually be cool? What if there was a wood elf that rode on top of it? You know what? Let's just go ahead and try that. I'm going to say, give this creature a wood elf rider on top of it, who wields a powerful bow. And let's see what happens. This is kind of a side note, but one thing that I really do love WorldSmith for as well is creating creatures that have mounts. I really don't think that there's a lot of great options in the monster manual for mounted opponents, mounted orcs, mounted goblins, mounted drow, and things like that. And to me, that's like a big part of any fantasy story. I'm a big Warhammer fan, and I love to see the fun mounts that things are on top of. So here we go. We have the Verdant Web Spinner, but then we also have Silriath, the Elven Archer. And it's just gone in and it's basically combined their stat blocks together, which I actually think can be quite convenient when you're running the game. So it's going to have all of the same type of bite attacks and the web recharge, but in addition, we now have the arrow volley. So that's a good example of how an enhanced tool could be used. I'm going to go ahead and save this again. You can also use this to share it with people. You can actually share people a link and have it basically be public access. So you can share it with your friends so they can use it. You could also share it with people in your party. For the monsters, that's probably less applicable. But of course, WorldSmith can also generate magic items, feats, and spells and things like that. That could be very convenient to be able to share with your players. So that's an example of a very good CR3 monster. I went ahead and put that together. All in all, I mean, even with me explaining it, this has taken probably, less than 7 or 8 minutes to do. If I was to do it without explaining it, I could pull this together in probably under 60 seconds. It's a great way to save time while you're prepping. I had this idea. I knew I wanted to build a very cool spider combatant. But rather than having to go through and write out all of the stat blocks, I can use WorldSmith as a base, which again, I can then go in and edit and tweak as I liked, but it's just a great jumping off point. Just for fun, so we can kind of show you another use case of how this, let's go ahead and just create a really beefy monster. Let's say at the very end of this session, they end up fighting like a cursed jungle dragon that is deep in the forest. Again, I love Warhammer. I love the kind of dark aesthetic of the wood elves in Warhammer, and I'm obsessed with the model of the wood elf on top of a giant forest dragon. And I don't feel like there's a great forest dragon equivalent in the monster manual. So let's go ahead and make this much more challenging. Let's make it a CR12 monster. We will say that its type is Fey still. We're going to make its size just a little bit larger. We're going to make it a huge creature. We'll still call it Chaotic Evil, which I like. Its origin can be in the forest. Let's go ahead and give it 3 legendary actions instead. We'll go in and change the custom note. We will say a forest dragon who uses the power of the woods and cunning. Oh, spelled that word wrong. To defeat her foes. Okay. We won't go through all of the abilities to the same extent we did in the last one. I don't think you've already got a good sense for this, but I wanted to show an example of how you could generate multiple creatures and also creatures of much higher CR, just so you can kind of get a sense for what that looks like. Here we go. Elthria Thornwing. Let's check out some of their abilities. 158 hit points, armor class 18, a bunch of damage resistances. Forest Camouflage, they're heavily obscure. They have magic resistance, legendary resistance, one of my favorite monster abilities. They have a strong bite attack. It does poison damage, claw attack, tail attack, breath of thorns, very cool. A line of razor vine spores in a 60-foot line. Each creature in that line must make a DC 16 con save, taking 8d8 piercing damage on a failed save. They've got some legendary actions. They can wing buffet, root grasp. They've got some cool loot. This is a great example of a strong creature that was quickly put together by WorldSmith. Again, I will go ahead and save this so I can remember to have it to the Heroes of Turtle's Head. That is a walkthrough of the Monster Generator on WorldSmith. Hopefully you found this super helpful. You can go in and get a WorldSmith account for free for 7 days and generate as much stuff as you like in those 7 days. It takes less than 10 minutes to sign up. So definitely go ahead and check it out and just try creating some monsters and see how it feels. I've had a lot of fun using this, and like I said, I really do feel like it has improved the games and the experience of the players at the table. They never know what to expect when they meet a new creature, and I find that that makes the game a lot more fun, especially for those experienced Dungeons & Dragons players. Good luck out there and have fun.